I kind of want to be playing Enshrouded instead of making this review, but here I am. I'm Swippy92 and I'm in Enshrouded. Well, I've been playing Enshrouded for over 40 hours now, and I am thoroughly impressed by it. I did actually partake in a test of the game before the launch, but that was a while ago, and it has improved quite a lot, and there's so much here. I was so surprised, and I'm baffled and astonished by the amount of things in the game. The amount of like the things you can build with, the things you can interact with. The map is huge. It reminds me very much about Valheim, actually, because I was so surprised at how much was there at the start with that game as well. And I'm looking so very much forward to seeing more the updates for Enshrouded, of course. But that doesn't mean I have explored everything. Far from it. I've barely done anything, you could say. The character you're watching right now in the gameplay is my second character, a mage. So this one is low leveled, and this is very early on in the game. Now, early on in the game, it's pretty much like any other survival game. So let's take it from the top and explain. What is Enshrouded? It's a survival RPG game where you have elements like eating, but not for surviving. You eat food just to increase your health, much like in Valheim. But there's also cutting wood, hacking stone to build and to craft, hunting animals, defeating enemies, and such. So it's what you would call almost the bare minimum of a survival game, but it is a good game here. Now, the name comes from the fact that you can become enshrouded, and this happens when you get to a sort of a mist thing that can kill you if you stay in it for too long. Now, this mist thing also comes in different kind of levels. So if you see any red mist, don't get too close, because that will drain the amount of time you can be in the mist very, very fast. You can die from just being in it for a few seconds. So if you see any red mist, approach it very carefully. It could be that it's a bad mist, and it's like a high level shroud or whatever it says on the screen, and just turn around, run away. I actually started sprinted in the shroud once, and I actually didn't sprinted into one of those areas, and as soon as I noticed it, I turned around, but I died. And when you die, you will drop all your, well, not all your inventory, but a lot of your inventory will be dropped on the ground. Not your equipment, the things you're carrying, the weapons and such, won't be dropped. So you can easily run back and pick it up. Now, if you happen to die from falling, or from, like I did, from being in the deadly shroud is what it's called. If you happen to be inside that and you die, the things will actually spawn outside of the deadly shroud, close to the edge where you died, or close to the border of the deadly shroud. So it will be in the ordinary blue shroud. You can actually look at the map to see if the shroud is red or blue. Blue means good, red means bad. And if you fall off an edge, well, you will most likely find the things, your inventory, at the edge where you fell off. So what can we tell more about Enshrouded? Well, not much really. It has very similar elements to other survival games in the genre. There are bosses, of course. There are a bit more formidable, but they're pretty basic. The combat is very good, I would say. It fits well with the game, and it also has a skill tree where you can spec your points in whether you're going a mage or a ranger or warrior. There's also tank and healer, so there's also supporting classes if you want to play this cooperatively. I think co-op is up to 16 players, so you can get a really good number of other players with you if you have the friend group. Or if you prefer to play with randoms, of course, there are servers you can just put up and people can join you. Other than that, well, combat is pretty basic. I was surprised at the skill tree, but other than that, combat isn't much to write home about. At the start, I preferred to have a locked-on camera, actually, but I'm starting to go away from that, at least with some enemies, because the bigger enemies, if they get close to you, well, the camera will gonna start being very close to your character, so that you can actually look the enemy in the face, basically, and that will make the camera very awkward and just cumbersome. It will be just in a way. Except with ranged abilities, because that will automatically target the enemy. So that will make like firing arrows and some magic spells much easier. But with that said, you can't. It's much harder to hit the head with an arrow or the spell if you're using locked on. Headshots do actually do more damage, which I was also surprised at. Not a lot of RPG games or survival games have that, I think. Not in my experience, at least. But I did appreciate that. It's so much easier to hunt when you know that, or to damage the enemy, really. Now, when playing warrior and mage, if I compare that to this early gameplay, I may feel the classes really reflect the things you expect from the classes. Mage being very weak at the start, but getting progressively more powerful. Now with the warrior being like medium at all levels, it will get through the enemies fast, but it will also he can also take a lot of punishment and potentially die because he's close. But there is dodging and blocking and parrying. Parrying is also a thing in the game, so that works quite well with the rest of the game. And while parrying, you can also build up a stun meter on the enemy. This also works when you're attacking the enemy while they're blocking with their sword or shield. That will build up a stun meter on them. And when they're stunned, well, you can attack them freely. Now, as for the enemies you will be facing, I'm a bit... I mean, the bosses are fine, but they're not very, shall we say, mixed. They're not much there. Especially in terms of enemies. The enemies in the shroud are always the same, no matter the area, as far as I can tell. There are some differences, and some enemies become more prominent in other areas than in the beginning. But generally they're the same, and not much variety there. And as for wild animals and other enemies, there isn't much variety, unfortunately. But I haven't explored all areas, as I said. I've only explored like three different biomes so far. And the enemy variety is fairly good for that. I wouldn't say it's awesome, but it is fairly good. I've seen plenty of cool enemies, plenty of dangerous enemies. Generally, I'm fine. I'm what's the word? I'm pleased with what's here for an early access game. Even if the price can seem somewhat steep at $30, it is a fair price, I would say, because of what's here. There's so much here, and the potential is almost limitless. There's so much they can do here. There's so much they can evolve. There's so much they can change if they like, and there's so much more room for. There's so much room for new things to craft, new things to discover, new things to build, and of course, new things to fight. Now, it will be interesting to see what kind of new improvements and new things they will come with when out of early access. Now, the game already has 1 million players, or at least about 1 million players I saw a release they released on Discord about them having 1 million players, and that was very impressive and well deserved, I would argue. This is a well-made game, and I'm looking very much forward to the future for this one. But I mentioned building, so let's talk a little bit about that. Now the building here is it's a little bit different than other ones. It's like a mix of Valheim and Minecraft. You can build a one solid wall right away, but that solid wall will consist of like 64 individual blocks, and each of these blocks can be broken down to make like unique frames or unique windows, like poking holes in 5 different areas to make some sort of a cross shape, or I don't know, whatever suits you, whatever you would like to see from your window. Now, of course, you can just make a basic rectangular or square window, but you can make whatever you want. Now, the only thing I do miss is a 45-degree beam type of a thing, because you have 45-degree roof, but there's no 45-degree beams that you can have for... You don't need support. This is like Minecraft. This is like, there's no gravity. Your house is not gonna fall apart if you break down the walls. So there's no such thing to worry about. I just want the beams for most of the style, the aesthetic side of things. I just want it for the style, just to make it look a little bit extra special, you could say. Now I can make my own 45-degree beam with the blocks, but that wouldn't look as nice. A done 45-degree beam made with what they have in the game, with what they can create in the game engine, would be much more preferred. But what is here to build with is really nice. There is so much to build with, and I keep unlocking more stuff as I progress after 40 hours. And I can't wait to build my own house with my warrior, because right now I have only built houses for my NPCs. You collect NPCs that you use to craft new items with. And yeah, I can't wait to do that. And speaking of crafting, well, there isn't much to say. There are some nice things to craft, and each crafting NPC has their own specialty, smithing, alchemy, so on. And there isn't really much to say about those. The only thing that I don't like is that I have to run to different stations to do different things, and there's so many stations that I keep mixing them up. But I do like that there's a menu you can go to. If you just press J on a keyboard, you can actually go to the menu and check all the different stations and the NPCs to see what can I craft there, without having to go to each individual station. And when I say a lot of individual stations, I mean there's one there, there's one there, there's one. I can have them all grouped up, sure, but there's still a lot. I think there's still a lot of different stations to go to, plus the NPCs themselves. But I don't have a general problem with that. I just need to remember to bring the materials needed. But it's a minor issue. It's a minor thing, you know? So, what can I say? Enshrouded is a worthwhile game, and I am so invested in this one. And I do encourage people to buy this. I know it sounds like I'm almost supported by them or sponsored by them, but I'm not. I just really like the game, and I do recommend it for anyone who is looking for this kind of game, like you see in the gameplay here. Now, this later gameplay has been from my warrior, so it's a bit more challenging, but nothing I can't handle. I'm Whip92, have a great life, and hope to see future videos. Bye bye!